What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/FatPeopleStories. This story's called Cousin Carney Part 8, Husband Harry. If you will indulge me, I want to talk some crap about Cousin Carney's husband Harry. Partly because part of this will come up in the next chapter, but also because I hate everything about him. This chapter is a bit mean-spirited, but I feel no guilt over talking crap about this guy. He's awful. I tend to complain about him awful. Somehow I've developed some sort of Tourette's. Anytime someone gets me started on the topic of him, or an adjacent topic, I start ranting uncontrollably. I hate this guy. For some reason, Harry was born in the mid-1960s, and so was a young adult in the 1980s. Of all the style choices in life he could pick, he decided to model himself after Ron Jeremy. Oh my god. A chubby adult film star from the 80s with shaggy, longish hair and a big mustache. Jeremy was known for having a very large penis, and so my best guess is that Harry, hardy har har, thought if he reminded women of Jeremy, they might think he too had a large penis. I'm gonna guess he does not. But for the love of all that is holy, I refuse to try and picture him naked. Even if that Ron Jeremy look was a hit in the 80s, I'm not sure why he stuck with it all these years, since it's kinda out of style now. Probably laziness. I met the two of them when Harry was in his mid-40s, and he's in his early 50s today. Harry is about 5'8", and he was nearly, yet still under, 300 pounds when I first knew them. She mentioned his weight at one point, but has continued to put on weight since then. He's a high school dropout, didn't get his GED, and he's a professional pizza delivery driver. He has 3 ex-wives, 4 ex-kids. Are they dead? And the name of one of those ex-wives is still tattooed to his chest. His credit rating is somewhere in the neighborhood of -87 because he's never paid a bill he could get away with not paying. The guy didn't have $15 to his name, and if he found $15 somewhere, he would spend it all on cigarettes or fast food before anyone could show up collecting on a bill. The only hobbies he seemed to have were sleeping, smoking cigarettes, and eating. And I'm not just saying that to be snarky. The guy doesn't have much personality and doesn't have many topics of conversation to engage him with. Not even the usual stuff like video games, movies, sports, or television programs. I've never known anyone else with such a bland personality and no real interests. And yet he still managed to find a 4th wife in Carney. How this loser jackass kept finding women wanting to marry him is far beyond my comprehension. There was a line in the show Frasier from the 90s where Frasier laments that murderers on death row can find women to marry them, but I can't find one to sit through coffee with me. I can't do a Frasier voice, I'm sorry. Exactly. I can only guess there are some women with just such low standards they simply don't think they can do any better. Carney, being not terribly bright, felt she had a real catch in him. In fact, she'd always talk about how much she loved that man and what a great guy he was. I don't know what she was basing it on because I couldn't figure it out. Occasionally, she'd enjoy telling me what qualities my husband had that she felt were undesirable and how her husband was better because he wasn't like that. I guess it was that frenemies thing again. I was often too hard on her, and I guess she felt she needed some ways in which she could feel better than me. That's human, that's fine. I'm not even mad. Only amused because her brags about her husband were so freaking stupid. Things like sports. My husband occasionally, but not obsessively, watches sports on TV. Well, Carney had this idea that men watching sports was just terrible. A huge character flaw, the sign of a real butthole. Carney, smugly,
Harry doesn't watch any professional sports at all. In fact, Harry doesn't even like sports at all.
Of course not, Carney. Carney because the only sport he's ever participated in was competitive eating. Of course he has no interest in anything involving physical activity. No shock there. She also saw beer bottles in my recycling and expressed her disapproval.
Harry doesn't drink beer. I think beer breath is gross, and I wouldn't want him spending his money on beer.
Carney, Harry's a chain smoker. What do you think that costs? Oh, you think ashtray tongue tastes so much better than beer breath? I beg to differ. And the crazy part is, my husband doesn't even drink that much beer. Maybe if my husband was a heavy drinker, I say she'd have a point. But at least he recycles. Meanwhile, Carney missed her family and friends back home and often talked about wistfully moving back. However, the reason they were living here and not in the state they were from had something to do with Harry's mountains of unpaid child support. I don't know the specifics of their home state, but Harry couldn't go back until the statute of limitations expired on his child support debt, lest he face some consequences. I guess maybe their home state might have revoked his driver's license or threatening to throw him in jail or something. Apparently in certain states, the debt expires something like 10 years after the last child has reached maturity. So that was his goal. They were planning to move back in 2020, I think, but not before they had to wait out this statute of limitations. At least that's what they believed, or at least that's how I think she explained it. They or I could be misunderstanding. On one hand, I felt a smidgen of sympathy. I can't imagine how rough it must be to be buried under so much debt that can't be charged off in bankruptcy. Child support, student loan debt, tax debt, etc. On the other hand, I'm not a real fan of deadbeat dads. And anyway, it's not like Harry was feeling overwhelmed by the mounting debt or felt bad about it. He literally didn't give a crap other than being annoying. He just didn't want to deal with any consequences of his poor choices. In case you might have some smidgen of sympathy for him, just wait. As far as he was concerned, he had it all figured out. He'd outsmarted everyone. Why pay child support for kids you don't even like anyway? Why visit your kids if the ex-wives were just gonna nag you? And if your kids hate you later on, just blame it on their bimbo mothers turning them against you. Nothing is ever your own fault. Why waste your money paying for health insurance when the ER has to treat you for free? Why bother to get a GED when no one even checks if you graduated from high school? And jobs ain't gonna pay you more for having one anyway. Why work hard to get a better job just to be in a new tax bracket and have to pay taxes and have people try to garnish your wages? This was Harry's chronic underachiever success plan. He was proud of how slick he was, but he often complained if anyone else found some loophole and exploited it. He was just a lazy son of a bimbo who'd figured out early on that for someone like him with no real ambition or intelligence and a strong dislike of work, it simply didn't pay to work hard. It was better to look for every scam and loophole and then justify it by complaining that other people were getting away with stuff, so why shouldn't he? He had no intention of ever doing the honest, ethical, or responsible thing. So what if you end up living in a dump? If your only hobbies are eating and napping, what do you care? So what if you end up living in the bad part of town? Just find some mean, mangy dogs to frighten the criminals and buy some guns. So what if you and your significant other never had any fallback savings? There was always a new credit card offer in the mailbox or a rent-to-own place willing to sign a contract with you. So what if bill collectors might sue when you don't pay? As long as you own nothing outright, there's nothing to repo. Ha ha ha! Hashtag winning! Sounds awfully depressing to me, but they seem totally okay with it. God, I hate this guy. The obesity and smoking are catching up to him now. He won't take care of his health, doesn't have health insurance, and keeps landing in the hospital for heart troubles. But he isn't too worried about it because they can't make him pay the hospital bills anyway. Aha! That's the rest of society's problem, right? When the doctors would stress to him he must change his lifestyle, he basically says, step off, they don't know him, they can't tell him what to do. But since he had no insurance, he couldn't follow up with the primary care doctor or take his prescriptions. So he said he didn't care. It was all bullcrap anyway. And again, to some extent, I can sympathize. It's kinda effed up that people can't afford to have insurance or go to the doctor to get their prescriptions. On the other hand, knowing Harry the way I do, even if he could have afforded the insurance, he still wouldn't have. Not if it meant he had to spend his own money. And even then, even if someone else, say the government, paid for insurance for him so he could get routine care, he still wasn't going to take care of himself. That would mean practicing delayed gratification. He'd have to change his diet, and he doesn't want to give up his greasy foods. He wouldn't give up smoking. He damn well wouldn't start exercising, because none of it would be any fun. There is just no saving him from his own self-destructive nature. In the beginning, after he landed in the hospital the first time, he might have been a little concerned about his heart and lung problems, but not enough to change. And after 4 or 5 years of being in and out of the hospital, he seemed to have adopted the attitude of, well, they keep telling me I'll die if I don't change my eating and exercise habits, but I'm still here, so clearly they're full of crap. Stupid doctors. No, Harry, you're alive because you've been lucky to get to the hospital and be stabilized each time you were having a health crisis. You're alive because society is paying for your medical costs, which is astounding since you don't even care about your health. One time he said, who the hell cares? If I get sicker, I'll just get on disability like everyone else and I can retire. I thought that was just a crappy joke, but it was true to Harry's attitude. Mad that someone else was getting something he wasn't getting. Want to know what he's doing now? He's retired on Social Security disability insurance. It wasn't a joke. It really was his plan all along. He thinks he's so slick that he got to retire in his early 50s, unlike other poor slobs, and they could finally move back to their home state since you can't force a guy on Social Security disability insurance to make back child support payments. Hashtag winning! At the time I was dealing with them, his primary profession was pizza delivery driver, which he did on the weekends. Apparently, he made pretty good cash tips doing his 3 days a week, enough so that nothing else could take priority on the weekends. At times, he had other part-time jobs during the week, but mostly preferred work that paid cash, presumably to avoid garnishments and taxes. He didn't want to pay a damn bit to the government, especially since even if he didn't make much that year and had a refund coming, they just garnish it to pay off his debts. But here is the part I needed to tell you because I want to reference it in the next chapter. His other part-time job was working as a car mechanic at a tiny mom-and-pop shop. He didn't have any certifications to work on cars, but this wasn't a reputable shop, so it didn't matter. They didn't care too much about worker protections or safety, but he didn't mind because he didn't care about that stuff either. They paid him in cash, which suited him just fine, doing normal working hours Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. They expected him to be on call. When they got a customer, they'd call him to come to work, a few blocks from his house. They only paid him for the time he was actually working, though, yet supposedly expected him to be available on a moment's notice. So he claimed he couldn't work another job during the traditional work week. This suited him just fine. If Carney asked him to run errands while she was working, he'd refuse. But Carney, if they call me, I have to rush right to work. What am I supposed to do if they call me while I'm in the middle of doing whatever errand? Nope, sorry, no can do. His on-call job was the perfect excuse to be as utterly lazy and useless as possible, laying around the house and eating, napping, or watching TV all day. Admittedly, maybe he couldn't find a better job. And yeah, it sounds like that job didn't treat him well. What, with expecting him to be available but not paying him for those hours? I'll give him that. I just think he enjoyed the excuse too much. Example, one day my phone rang.
Could you go pick up some dog food for me?
What?
I'm on my way to work, but I was out of dog food today, and the dogs haven't eaten. I can't go get it or I'll be late for work.
For whatever reason, I wasn't working this day, and she knew I'd be home. I could have done this for her, but even if I didn't mind running an errand for her, I don't like her damn dogs. They're mean. I'm not going to feed your dogs for you, Carney.
Oh no, you don't have to. Harry's at home. Just bring him the dog food. He'll pay you for it. He just can't leave the house because he's on call for work.
You live 2 blocks from the the grocery store. It's all the way across town for me. That's crazy. Tell him to just get off his ass and go. It'll take him 7 minutes max.
But he can't.
Yeah, I'm hanging up now, Carney. Yep, he was a real winner. No wonder he was such catnip to women and found 4 women to actually marry him. But apparently he's catnip to the ladies. Just keep in mind how much free time he had hanging around the house when I come back with my favorite Carney story. Next time on Fat People Balls. Or sorry, Dragon Ball Z. No, Fat People Stories. There we go. Anyways, how do you guys feel about this Carney chapter? Definitely very long. And I can see why she might not have a fondness for Harry. Seems like kind of an insufferable individual to be around. And I can't wait to see how he, if not maintains, but magnifies this image in the next entry. This story's called Met Up with a Doctor Friend of Mine. He's 5'7" and used to weigh 260 pounds and was packing on the pounds. He got into keto and lost 40 pounds. He's kept the weight off. For reference, I'm 5'2" and currently weigh 120 pounds. I've always been under 140. We went on a 7-mile hike and I got really hungry at the end because I didn't have breakfast. He proudly told me that he doesn't get hungry because he does OMAD. In that same breath, he mentioned that he ate 400 calories for breakfast. What is OMAD? 1 meal a day? Okay. We went to get food afterwards. I got pancakes and eggs and sausage, and he got meat. My meal was probably twice the calories of his meal. He started crap talking my food, telling me that I'm going to get hungry soon because carbs don't fill you up. It's so strange how competitive he is with me regarding eating and nutrition. He said that counting calories was bullcrap. He doesn't notice that he just eats less calories because meat keeps him satiated for longer. I feel like I'm in Bizarro World, being lectured by a morbidly obese person on how I should maintain my weight. It's so strange how insecure he is about it. The thing that drives me crazy is that he's also a doctor. How do you not make the connection that weight is all about calories in and calories out? I have another doctor friend who is just as strange. She judges the clients that she sees, but does the same exact thing. She also has these really strange beliefs about how the world functions. The one thing that my friends have taught me is to always get a second and third opinion on things when the answer isn't what you expect. Wow, those are some cool friends of yours. Yeah. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.